Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Well, let me do the quick introductions. Daniel, Matias. Matias is my co-podcaster and a long-time friend. He's also is a traveler. Now he's in an hiatus of after
I'm
5 years or been traveling around the world. Matt is also on something related to coaching, right? He did for himself. He's also like practicing for others, and therefore, when I told him, okay, I knew this great person that do something similar for leadership and an engineer and so on. He was like, "Oh, yes, I wanna meet her." Have those
I'm so
questions.
excited, Danielle. To be honest, I was expecting this day for a bit because you do something that I dream to. One of my goals is to be coaching. First of all, congratulations. Yeah, it's great to know people that are doing or have the same vision, of making this place a better place. So first of all, congratulations, and it's an honor for me to share this space with you.
Oh, well, thank you. It's also an honor to share this space with you as well. And like after this, if you want to talk, I'm happy to talk more and like chat and because it's not easy to do it full time, especially as a freelancer and such. Happy to share more and like happy to be here as well because I know you guys talk about like experiences in life. So I'm actually a little nervous. I'm like, what? Because you guys are like
No,
travelers. I feel like you have
yeah,
so many to
but
share, and I'm just like,
no, but in a way, you have been traveling. You are not born and raised in Barcelona, right? So you already have a story of traveling, right? So I think this is hitting the nail, right, on what you are actually doing to improve that atmosphere, even for freelancing or for a full time job. So, in said that, let me do the quick introductions. Maybe we can, Ati, Mercedes, our editors, please feel free to mix this up. But they know they know they always give them challenges. So okay, so I have over here Matt. Thank you for joining. And joining us with us today is Danielle Francis. She's a leader coaching for B Coaching, right? And she's also living in freelancing from B Coach and is also living in Barcelona. Has a spectacular travel story about from the US to Barcelona and a great tip about potato salad that I personally heard that if you like to share later. So thank you for joining, Daniel.
thank you for having me. And yes, I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit what is B Coach and what is basically what you're doing and how did you end up on Barcelona?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I'll start with how I ended up in Barcelona. So, like both of you, I have the technical background, engineering, and I was working for some years. And really, as I was working in my company, I'm like, I want to be on the business side of things. So that's where I thought, like, well, let me go get my MBA, and that would be the way to start working more closely to the business. And in doing that, I came back to a childhood dream to always live in Europe because like trying to get a visa or a company to sponsor you to like live in Europe, it is pretty challenging. So in coming to get my MBA, that's how I ended up in Barcelona. Then once I moved here, I really felt more aligned to the culture in Spain than I did to the US. So now I've been here 7 years. This feels like home for me. I feel settled. I don't see myself moving back to the States unless, something happens. But that's what brought me here. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed
we
for
cross
that.
fingers. Nothing happens.
Yeah, right. Toca la madera.
Toca la madera, exacto.
So B Coach is the company that I co-founded with two other partners. We offer learning and development programs, so specifically coaching, but also other types of services that circle around coaching to help make it more comprehensive for companies because we provide services to companies primarily, but also individuals. And how did I even get to be coached and becoming a coach? Well, I got here because my first company failed. And in that experience of failure, trying to figure out what was next for me, I just started volunteering as a mentor, helping other entrepreneurs avoid all of the mistakes that I made in my first business. And in doing so, I realized like I enjoy helping people, help like conversations, like how can I get paid for this? And this is where coaching came along and I got my certification. So I am a professional certified coach, had that credential for more than a year now. And then earlier this year with my business partners, we launched Be Coach so that we can offer our services and help people, feel more confident, at ease, and just ready in their careers and in their workplace. So yeah, that's me.
That's amazing. And
I have a question.
from yes, go, ma'am.
Okay, because there's so many areas which you can apply coaching. Why you decided to go with the business area? So which part of the that coaching style attracts you more? Because you can coach, be live. For example, I do more live coaching, uh, even though I'm really interested to go into companies because I heard that that's where coaching born. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I tried a bit of different things before settling on this. So when you're trained as a coach, they say like, "Oh, you can do like all types of coaching and whatever it is that you want." And I tried a bunch of different things. So first, I started off as more like a coach for entrepreneurs or like wanting to start businesses. So I signed up for Fiverr, and I had an account on Fiverr just selling my services there as well as Upwork. But what I found is that people wanted advice. They didn't really want coaching
Yeah.
because coaching is not
Uh,
advice. And I don't think most people know that because most people call themselves a coach when they should really be an advisor or a mentor. And there's place for all of us here, but most people want like mentoring and advising. And I just didn't like that, especially as I started studying coaching
yeah, yeah.
because the credentials, like it's a lot of hours to like get those credentials of
Yeah,
studying.
there's a lot of misconception about coaching, and I know it's something that it's evolving. So I think coaching is not now what it used to be, and it's not going to be what it is now. So it's great that we can recognize what we're up to and where we want to go with our tools, because at the end of the day, I think it's all about sharing the tools that help us to have a better impact in our own life. I feel like you only, not that you can, I don't know if that's the right word, but you only share the things that works for you. Otherwise, it's strange to put yourself and say something that doesn't work for you, or you never even try. You cannot say to somebody else, go try get out of your comfort zone when you never went out of your own. So that's why, and I think it's a safe place, companies, because there's a lot of responsibility when you are doing life coaching, because you need to be really aware um, at at what point you're able to actually give the best of your professional side and not get involved in places where you need to move on to other kind of professions like psychologists or things that are out of our spectrum.
Exactly. That's part of one of the reasons. So, like, as I started doing business coaching and moving into trying life coaching, just like you said, I feel like you need to have a some type of psychology counseling background in order to do that, as well as be able to disconnect emotionally.
Oh, totally.
There's so much weight and
Yeah, yeah.
heaviness when it comes to life coaching and the goals that surround life
You
coaching.
need to be a little bit cold.
It's true. I even feel like with even coaching, even like workplace coaching and businesses, I've gotten to a place where someone can be crying in front of me and, I show empathy, right? I'm
Yeah.
always going to, and I'm like acknowledging and listening. But in the past, like years before, I'd probably be crying with them.
No.
I'm crying,
So
you know.
I'd like to ask you a question about. We were researching a little bit about your background and stuff, and there is a keep subject that is coming up that is I really want to know a little bit more. Than if you like, if you can explain to me that what is imposter syndrome.
Okay. So So that's funny that you just brought that up because I literally was talking about this before we met today because in the class that I was giving just before this, we were talking about imposter syndrome. So, imposter syndrome is the um, feeling that you're going to be found out as a fraud. And there are multiple types of imposter syndrome. Specifically, there are 5 types. So, like, you're putting me on the spot now to remember what I literally talked about. So, the 5 types of imposter syndrome, there's the expert, the natural genius, the perfectionist, and
Okay.
the superhero. So, yes, but it's all about the way that you feel internally about the work that you do and the way that you operate and the thoughts that you typically have. So, if you are someone who has to be like the expert or like the soloist, you go about your work in a way that you have to know it all or you have to be the one to solve it. So that means you may not be reaching out for help. You're taking on more than you can handle. You're not saying no because the expert can do everything.
Yeah.
So it can create bad habits and just you having this type of imposter syndrome of feeling like a fraud because like I don't want to get found out, so I gotta say yes to everything.
And I fear that that is a little bit of putting a lot of pressure over yourself, right? And try to become a position or or an ideal of something that you have on your mind.
And I think it's about the spectrum, right? It's not that you are 100% one thing or another thing. You can be multiple imposters on your on your own in different areas of your life, and you can be like perfectionist at 100% on one side, and then maybe perfectionist at 60% in other side of your life. So I think it's about recognizing in which places those roles are actually not getting you where do you want to go, because I think you had to be a little bit of those things if you want to success in your life, because it's pushing the limit. If you live behind the limits, I think you're going to live a plain life.
And as someone that relocated, Daniel, in that case, or you, Matt, that you also relocated. So, how many times you maybe foresaw yourself in a way of living, right, by yourself on another country, and that it's a little bit of the imposter syndrome, because you get frustrated if things doesn't come out as you projected that will be when you're taking that maybe big leap of faith of going to of relocating. And you should say, right, your first project failed.
Yeah. Well, I do want to just add one thing about imposter syndrome is that not everyone has it. And I think even when I'm working with clients, they say, "Oh, I have imposter syndrome." And in reality, they're just lacking confidence in a moment in time. And so imposter syndrome is something that is continual in whatever context that you have. So like you constantly like feel this pressure, you constantly feel this need for approval or to get things done on your own. And I have to say, I'm not a person who suffers from imposter syndrome, but I can suffer from disillusionment. Like when you just like picturing all of these things that I want, and then when it doesn't come into realization, I take it really hard. When I moved to Barcelona specifically, I was so naive and thinking my little bit of travels to Costa Rica and like other places made me like equipped to speak Spanish. And I got into a cab and was asking the guy like, "Oh, where can I buy sheets for like for my bed?" I I wasn't saying it right, and he just kept saying "que," like "hey,"
Mm.
and I didn't understand. And then finally, he says, like, so in Spain, a very popular department store is Corte Inglés, and I didn't even understand what he was saying. So that night, I slept on a sheetless bed and just cried. I was like, what did I just do? I didn't realize I was just so naive, like moving here. So yeah, I think sometimes we have these grand images, and it's important to like touch reality, be down to ground, and for those of us like myself who is super optimistic can be this delusion, be more like pie in the sky person. I need people around me to help me have my feet on the ground. So that's something
And
I know about myself.
someone that probably is having or not knowing that has that imposter syndrome whenever it's working, what would be the recommendation to detect or maybe mitigate that thing?
Yeah. I think a good way to detect if you have imposter syndrome is how do you feel as you are delivering like your work or any type of deliverables that you have, whether it's for work, you're going to church, like events, something that anything you're putting together, or just things that you're involved in, perhaps even in your sports, if you're boxing. And if you feel this immense pressure that you have to get this right, to the point where maybe you have heart palpitations, you start feeling like really warm. Some people feel it in their stomach, like a little more like anxious, can't sleep at night. And this is consistent, let's say, um, months, weeks at a time within a context. So it's not just like this one time hard project I got to get through, but this project is over and the next project I feel it, the next project. That feeling of the pressure, always having to get things right, and that if I don't, I'm going to be found out as like not someone who's capable. That's how you can, because it's a lot of feelings in your body and the thoughts that you have consistently.
I would like to add something, if I can.
Come on.
Two things. First of all, something that it took me a long time to realize is that our brain is another muscle, and in the same way we go to the gym, we need to not we need, but it's healthy to do any kind of mental treatment. You can call psychologists, you can call coaching, you can call yoga, whatever it trains your brain to get into a different state in where you can be more aware of yourself. It's super healthy. And second, with the imposter syndrome, I think it's set set your week to have at least one failure a week. Get used to fail, and prepare yourself to that failure. Like push yourself that, because I think one of the most scary things is like when you fail without knowing that you're going to fail, because it took you uh, without the right guard. But as soon as you put yourself in your list of week, have at least one failure, let's say burn the food or whatever what you want to do, it's like you getting in your comfort zone a little bit of failure, which is necessary because there's such a little success without failure. Yeah, fail.
I agree with that. That's a good way to go about it, because failure is inevitable, but we don't want it to like stop us, like immobilize
Yeah.
us. We're
So,
used to
but
it.
if we visualize the failure, then it's not such a big deal, because I think the biggest fear with failure is that the failure catches us on guard and that definitely destroy our reality. But if we set up a little bit of failure, like pushing our limits, I think it's more friendly to start getting used to those things and set
Yeah,
up where you can fail. There are things that you cannot fail. If you're presenting your final test, then you might not want to fail. But I don't know. What's the problem if you burn the toast a little bit? You know?